Joining us now from Capitol Hill, South Dakota Republican Senator John Thune, a member of the Budget Committee. So, Senator, what do you make of the president's plan?
Well, I'm just glad the president's finally engaged, Greg. We've been waiting for this for a long time. You can't do big things here in Washington, D.C. without presidential leadership, and that's what we haven't had. And so the fact that he's now at the table, better late than never, I would argue, but at least he's at the table presenting something that will give us a chance, hopefully, to get some bipartisan support in the Senate and perhaps get something eventually through the House that will avert what everybody agrees is a major economic disaster. But we're still waiting for the details, and obviously there's a long ways to go, and this is going to be a tough needle to thread in order to get this done.
See, I don't understand why the Democrats think that this is an economic disaster going off the cliff, since really it's just a Democratic agenda. I mean, cuts in defense and higher taxes. What's not to love if you're a Democrat?
Well, and that's why I think they've been so slow to move. Now, I do think that the president is concerned, beginning to become concerned about the impact on the economy and also about his legacy. I mean, ultimately, at some point, even though he can blame Republicans in the near term, in the long term, when people look back on this period, this is going to attach to the president. And so I think he's feeling now an obligation to finally lead on this issue, and hopefully he'll bring some Democrats in the House and the Senate along. But it's going to have to be something that Republicans can support. Republicans are not going to vote for a bad deal, and obviously, so we're going to be very interested in the particulars of this as they begin to emerge. But I'm just glad finally that the president is here. But to your point, it is true. A lot of Democrats get what they want. They get higher taxes automatically on January 1st, and they get steep cuts in the defense budget. But I'll tell you what, there are an awful lot of people who would be hurt by that, particularly small businesses and job creators, and that's why it is so important that we do everything we can to get an outcome here that doesn't hurt jobs in the economy.
Well, this is, again, I don't get this. The president says, he's worried about this having an impact on the economy, and that raising taxes at this point on a growing economy, which he believes it's growing, would be a bad thing. However, he's still fighting tooth and nail to raise taxes on the successful. Isn't there a contradiction there? I mean, if raising taxes on the middle class is bad, shouldn't it be really bad for the people that actually hire the middle class?
Absolutely, and it is a fragile economy, Greg. You are right. And 2 years ago, the president, when we had economic growth that was actually higher than it is today, said we shouldn't be raising taxes in the middle of a weak economy. Well, today, here we are. We still got a fragile and a weak economy. We know that raising taxes at the $250,000 threshold would hit 1 million small businesses who employ 25% of the workforce in this country. It would be, all the analysts, all the economists say that this would be really bad for our economy. And if you look at the impact of the revenue increases, if the president gets everything he wants, in other words, all the tax increases he wants, it funds the government next year for less than a week.
Right.
This is not a revenue problem. This is a spending problem, which is what Republicans have maintained all along.
Right, exactly. Not to psychoanalyze the president, but he seems so obsessed with the 2% that he's disengaged himself from the bigger problem, which is that we're heading towards Greece. We're not thinking about spending. He's almost on class warfare disability. It's taken him kind of out of the argument, and now he's coming back. Don't you think that's the problem, that he's almost like Ahab and the whale is the wealthy?
Yeah, right. Well, they do have, it seems at least, this obsession with raising taxes, and particularly in a punitive way on affluent people. Now, having said that, again, the people who would be hit with these tax increases are the people who create the jobs, and that
right.
impacts a lot of middle-class Americans. You got a lot of middle-class Americans who are employed by small businesses that would see their tax bills go up, and that's going to be bad for the economy and bad for jobs. But again, I mean, I think that philosophically, the president, a lot of his allies up here in the Congress have a very different view of the world, and one which believes that the way that you improve our country, improve our society, is to redistribute wealth. But the way that you improve this country and raise the standard of living is to grow the economy. That makes it better for everybody, and that also solves a lot of these fiscal problems that the country faces right now.
Yeah, we saw a lot of name calling. Harry Reid called Boehner a dictator. I find it strange because they don't call actual dictators like they never call Chavez or Castro a dictator, but they'll call Boehner a dictator. Are they going to start acting like adults again soon?
I hope so, and this really is a Senate play. I mean, the House has done their job. It's ironic to me that Harry Reid goes after John Boehner. The House of Representatives did this months ago, which is when it should have been done. Extended the rates, replaced the across-the-board cuts with some responsible reductions in spending, and yet here the Senate is pointing the finger at the House of Representatives. So the Speaker is right to say it's up to the Senate, and this is where it's going to have to happen.
All right, Senator, thanks a lot. Next.